Welcome to Blizzard and Bloom, the podcast where we navigate the storms and celebrate the triumphs in business and entrepreneurship. Join us as we dive into stories, insights, and strategies from top professionals to help you thrive in today's evolving landscape. And now, here is your host, Jay Rotonnelli.
Hello, folks. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it might be. Jay, welcome you back to Blizzard and Blue. We've got a great guest on today, somebody I've been trying to get on the show for a bit, but it's just kind of a recap. We spoke to Dave Gallagher the last episode and talked about the Simon Foundation and what we can do to help support that and the importance of the education in the industry and how we share that knowledge with others. So it's more than just folks in a pickup truck or with a salt spreader. So today we have Jeremy Kirkham from Clintar Commercial Services. I'm sure a lot of you folks are familiar with them up in the Canadian region. Anybody that's in snow or grounds, I'm sure recognizes that name. It's been around a long time. A lot of respect for those folks. I know you have several branches. So I want to take a minute here and introduce Jeremy. Thanks for making the show. And if you could give us a little bit of background, just a little bit of kind of who you are and how you got into the industry and how you ended up with Clintar.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a pretty small world, even though we live in different countries, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I got in the industry, a little over 20 years ago now. A friend of mine had a landscape company, smaller one, and we'd started with his dad. He was always looking for people, so I thought I'd give it a try. I had a baby on the way, needed to make some money. Right away, I knew it was something that I'd be passionate about. Then winter rolled around, and he threw me in a pickup truck, and I started plowing snow. And then I actually bought my own plow truck without telling my then pregnant wife. That didn't go over so well. I bought it for about $5,000. It was about 20 years old when I bought it. It was a rust bucket, but made it through 2 winters, made some good money with it. And right away I was kind of hooked. And I've been doing it pretty much my whole life. The only other thing I've done is some pest control, which is also a service industry. And then to get over to Clintar Commercial Outdoor Services, it'd been an idea I'd banded around with Chris, who's one of the owners here, Chris Burns. He's been with Clintar for a long time. He started a franchise up in Ottawa about 17 years ago now. And a few times we went back and forth on me coming over. It just was never the right fit for him or for me. And then about a year and a half ago, it was the right fit for both of us. They'd landed a huge campus contract, and he thought I'd be the guy to run it for him. So hit the ground running with that, and we've been doing it ever since. And started off strictly operations, and then last summer I moved into a business development role with them. And now this summer I'm moving into more of an account manager role, and then the winter I'll go back and take care of that campus. It's about 34 acres, and it's our first big property that we've brought liquids into. Fortunate enough to meet with Jordan Smith a few times, who kind of got the liquid bug for me. We met with some guys who were close with Jordan in Canada, bought a bunch of the stuff, and this year we went through about 9,000 gallons on a week to 10-day basis all winter long. So we went through quite a bit, and yeah, it's just been rolling since, and we're just always expanding and looking into new revenue streams. And I think we're going to start making our own brine eventually. And yeah, it's been quite a ride, and it's been good.
Awesome. I'll tell you, I think you and I probably met through, I'm guessing Thane, I think maybe through his platform, Coffee on the Peak. Thane's become a good friend to me as well. And somebody that I got a lot of respect for in the industry. At least got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, I met Thane through Coffee on the Peaks. I'd met Scott before, and he
Okay.
introduced me to Thane. And Rob Miller's the one, I know you know him from the Tuesday Nights group. He's the one who introduced me to basically most of the people I know in the States, to be honest. I just happened to meet him at a East Coast Facilities event about not last December, December 2023. He started to introduce me to people, told them I wanted to learn about liquids. And I woke up the next day with about 60 more LinkedIn followers. So, yeah.
Great. You know, you always say like, you want to surround yourself with people that are good people and knowledgeable people, right? That will share that knowledge. And there's two great people right there. You've kicked around a few names and all great folks. Whether it's Jordan or Rob Miller, that guy's a class act. He really a great guy. Him and Lindsay are doing some great things. I was fortunate enough to go to a retreat back in, I think it was January, February, and it was myself and Thane and Rob and Martin Toronto, and it was really impactful and it was powerful. But really, just getting to know one another, and then kind of seeing the passion that was in the room for the industries, and not even so much for just the industries, but like the passion for their people, whether it was Martin with the team at Sima or Rob with his team, the things that he and Lindsay are doing, Thane and the impact, that he's had on Kirk or whoever might be. And then again, that's how I got to really know you, and I started following you. And I got to be honest with you, you have made some really big impacts, I think, in the industry. People are paying attention to what you're doing. I love to hear. I know leaders building leaders. Sometimes, we jump on that, and I've listened to some of the things you talk about, and then how it's real world stuff, right? Like when it snows and a salter's broke down, or you need it, like sometimes it's 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. You don't know what it is, but you had mentioned a few times about trying to show others because you can't always be the one to do it, right? So can you talk to us a little bit, like what's your approach when, you're working through that, and how do you get others, how do you mentor and coach some of those others so that they can get and rise to the level that you are?
Yeah. I'm pretty hands-on as a leader, I think. Really, I started at the bottom, right? Like I started out my buddy's company, like I said. I ended up on what was called the last chance crew. It was a bunch of guys. He didn't know if they'd make it or not. And some of us are still in the industry, some aren't. None of us work for him anymore because we've all went on to different companies. But his dad took me under his wing. His dad's the one who started the company. And he told me, like, if you're willing to try and you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach you. But the minute that you stop investing in yourself, then I'm not going to invest in you anymore. And that's how I take it with my team too, right? This isn't for everyone. The ones who are passionate about it are going to make a career out of it because you can make a good living, right?
For sure.
But some of them, it's just a job, and that's fine. They're here in the wintertime, they got other jobs in the summertime. But as long as someone's willing to learn and willing to listen, and I'm willing to tell them everything I know, and they can tell me what they know because, even though I've been doing it 20 years, got a young 19-year-old kid who works for me who's shown me some stuff. He's new to the industry, but he's knows a lot because he works in the summertime driving the skid steer. He's taught me a lot about driving a skid steer, even though I've been doing it a lot longer than him. And I think that's what we need to do as leaders. Like, we can't just beat it into people that I've been doing this 20 years. I know more than you. There's always something you can learn from everyone that you meet. And I think that's one of the biggest things in our industry that's changing. It wasn't always like this. It used to, especially in Canada, anywhere or in Ottawa, it was a very quiet market. Nobody talked to anybody.
Yeah.
You were the
Yeah.
competition, but they're not really the competition. Maybe we see them at the sites. The only real competition is yourself. You do what you do it better than them, and maybe you're going to be higher priced, but people are going to see your quality. That's what I try to instill in my workers. Like, if you work hard, you're willing to learn, you're going to go places in life. It's it's not always about who's the best today. It's who's going to be the best 5 years from now. And if you're not going to learn or invest in yourself, you're not going to be the best in 5 years because people are going to pass you by.
Well said. Yeah, well said. I think there's an old adage, if something of the fact is, what if I train them and then they leave? And that's like, well, what if if you don't train them and they stay,
Exactly.
right? Like, so, they're, you can't be in that fear. And two things that, one thing in particular that you brought up was the fact of sometimes in this industry, or up until just recently, it's been very protective, and a lot of people didn't want to share information as to, kind of best management practices on things. And certainly when you look at it from a smaller level, a state level or regional, it's very protective. But lately, I see the likes of folks doing different things, whether it's Gene Stork or, we have the Green Snow Pro certification program here in New Hampshire. And that's really where people are starting to exchange information and starting to feel less fearful. And I'm not sure how or why it got to that point, but the fact of the matter is people are starting to share more information. And I know like when we send, team members to some of these training events, I'm like, absorb all you can and listen and talk to others. It's okay to talk to the competition, We're not going to share proprietary information, but if people have something that works, that's great. And we ought to be taking a look at it too. And then, to your other point, it's okay if somebody's younger. I learn stuff every day. That's what I love about this business. I've been doing it 36 years, and I always learn something from somebody. And I think that's the best part of it. Young, old, or different, it doesn't matter. We don't know everything, and sometimes others can provide some really solid input. So again, I've seen you doing some of that through your LinkedIn post, social media, and then talking about it. What are some of the things Clintar is doing as far as that from a leadership, training, coaching, mentoring? And I say we all started somewhere, right? We're all started at the bottom. We're working our way up through and we're all making careers. But how does Clintar look at that? What are some of the processes that you folks offer?
So Clintar is very big on educating our staff. Not just me. I get to go to a lot of the conventions and that, which is great. That's part of my job. But then I bring that information back and we go over it with not just key people. I'll share the information with anyone who wants to learn, right? And we take a lot of like Simon does a lot of great online stuff. So we use that. And then up here we've got Landscape Ontario. They have a monthly chapter meeting because the province is so big, it's like the size of 5 or 6 states. Like probably the whole eastern seaboard for you guys fits into Ontario. So we have different chapters and they have a chapter meeting every month. We're encouraged to go to it. I tell people about it. And we've also, last month, we hosted in Landscape Ontario in conjunction with ASIC, which is it's kind of like what they're doing in New Hampshire with the snow and ice. So they're trying to take some of the responsibility and liability off of the contractors and back onto the property management. They're working with Simon that they've got a task force. So we held one of the first certifications in Ontario at our shop, and we invited our quote unquote competitors. They could come. It wasn't just proprietary to us because it's through Landscape Ontario. And anyone like, say, someone like me or yourself who've been in the industry a long time, you do the test, you do the day training, you get grandfathered in, so you won't have to write the test ever again. But then to take it to the next level, you could do what's called train the trainer. So we took part in that, and now we can train our own guys. Like, shovel crew comes and goes, but we can train them all to be level 1 certified snow removal people, which is basically shoveling. And now they're rolling out level 2, level 3, which is going to be like your salters, your loader operators, things like that. So
Gotcha.
Clintar took the lead in Ottawa by hosting the event. I think we had 11 people turn up altogether. Um, we'll probably do another one. We've told Landscape Ontario we're open to that. We always do the kickoffs like everyone else, and we do the WMIS, we do the rodeos, all that kind of stuff. And we also invest in, like, we've got a gentleman who works for us, Miles. So we've been paying for him to go to school for 3 years to get his red seal in Hort. That's through Landscape Ontario and Algonquin College. Our mechanic, they're always giving him training. We train people on liquids because it was new. Some people were a little hesitant. I was hesitant when I first heard about liquids because we'd never seen it, right?
Yeah,
We were
yeah,
always
for
told
sure.
that it wouldn't work, but that gets back to talking to people in our industry. Minnesota's just as cold as Ottawa. Works in Minnesota. Why won't it work in Ottawa?
Yeah,
So Clintar is very good, and because we've got a national brand, like we're the biggest Canadian snow company. If you take the whole franchise system together, we pool a lot of our resources. Like the ownership group meets with other owners and brings stuff back. Hey, Calgary's doing this, or Kitchener's doing that, or Moncton's doing this. Why don't we try that with our guys? And we do a lot of incentives for the team too. Like we'll have the barbecues, team meetings. We do the holiday party, the spring kickoff, winter kickoff. We've also just started a thing where we did a QR code where any of the employees give the QR code out to someone. That person contacts us. The leads come to me or Trevor. That person automatically gets a gift card because, it's not part of their job, but they went above and beyond.
sure. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we work with the teams too. Like we know winter can be tough, so we do some guaranteed hours for people, things like that to keep them around. We have branded uniforms that we give out to people, proper PPE. We've got our own health and safety committee that they can join so they can learn more. And anything that we learn, we'll pass on to them. Like I've told them all about like the online SIMA training, all that stuff, and if they want to do it, we're more than willing to let them do it. So yeah,
That's
Clintar.
great. And you talk about some of that stuff that you get to go to, right? And not everybody gets to, but it's not so much that you get to go and nobody else can. It's obviously we can't take everybody out of the company and send them to, to these things, but it's it's all about how you introduce it back to your team and then take that knowledge because essentially you've become the sponge, right? You're going to go back and bring it out and share it with the rest of the team. So I'd love to hear that stuff when that goes on. When we talk about introducing new things like the liquids, that's just a hot topic, right? It continues to be a hot topic. And folks like Jordan and Steve, like those guys are doing a fantastic job really promoting it, but more importantly, educating people
That's right.
on it, right? And they're willing to share. How has your team adapted to that with the liquids, and that how have you gone about training and getting the buy-in from them?
Yep. So when we first rolled it out, I won't lie, people were very hesitant, right? Because we've got some people been in this industry, 30 years. They'd never even really heard of liquids because no one in Ottawa was doing it. So they're like, how does that work? So I gave them the spiel that Jordan gave me, shared everything with them that Jordan gave me, all the education. And they're like, oh, so it is just like salt, but where it's faster. I'm like, yeah, we're just skipping one chemical process is all we're doing, essentially. It's different equipment, same thing. And then what I would do is I'd bring them over to my site. I ran the brine truck quite a bit when we first got it. And some of it we would do with salt, and then we do a lot beside with liquid. I'd be like, look, the proof is right there. And then I taught them how to use it. And really, like, we use the VSI stuff. We do have some SnowX stuff, but our big sprinters are VSI, and they've made it so user friendly. Like, it's just an app on your phone, and 5 minutes, and anyone can be doing it. And once they do it once, they're like, wow, why didn't we use this like 5 years ago?
That's the thing, I guess, is getting the buy-in and trying to get folks to understand that, hey, that's the way, get away from, well, this is the way we've always done it. And it's like there's innovation. And I think about you and your team and Clintar and how you've taken that and really are innovative, whether you're looking at your website or talking to you or seeing LinkedIn posts or others. Like I think that's really cool that you guys are embracing the innovation and trying new things and then helping educate the others so that you have that buy-in and people believing you. Sometimes it's a trial and error type of thing, right? It takes a few times to try it and get it dialed in, but you got to stick with it. It's something you can't do and then get frustrated and say, I'm not going to bother. I mean, you really got to take some time, right, to get invested into the thing.
Yeah, it's like that with any new equipment, right? Like, if you just dip your toe in it and you're like, oh, that's not how I've always done it. Well, nothing's going to kill your company faster than that's not how we do it. We've always done it this way. Well, there was a time when nobody owned a cell phone. Now we all have one or two, you know.
Yeah,
There was a
yeah, good
time we
point.
never heard of iPads. Now everyone has an iPad. Like, we've invested, well, the owners have invested in a lot. Like, we run Metal Plus blades, which we all know aren't the cheapest on the market, but they do an amazing job. We've tried out the Top Gun back blades, tried out the liquids, like, we're willing to try anything that's going to give us a competitive edge and a better product to the end user, which is our clients, right? The better we can do for them, then we can secure more contracts and we can keep the contracts we have now.
Yeah, yeah, and it's promoting that value, right, from within too. That educating the clients. What are they really what are they valuing, and then how do you present that? Because we talk about so much. We talk about the slip and falls. We talk about janitorial expenses, right? They're tracking salt in or sand, and then what that does to not only your facility and from a cleanliness standpoint presentation, but what it does to the environment as well.
Yep.
So it really
Yeah.
does take a lot of buy-in.
Now that you mentioned environment, that's one thing, very big focus for our branch anyway of Clintar. Like, we've got 3 Ford Lightning trucks in our fleet now. We've got one crew that's completely electric. We've got another crew we're probably switching to electric. We've looked at robotic mowers, like anything that's going to be sustainable and deliver a better product to our client and a more efficient job for our company, right?
Yeah. No, that's great. And I do think there's something to be said about the companies. It goes back to what you said. You can't just dip your toe and try it, right? If it doesn't feel right, then you jump away. Even like the Ford Lightning trucks, I think that's fantastic. Or some of the battery operated equipment. I see Justin White over at K&D Landscaping over on the West Coast, California, and they switched to, completely switched to battery powered equipment. And it had some pain points, I think, at first, just trying to kind of retraining the mind, right? But I guess it's been super successful to them. And when you look at even the auto mowers and some of the battery equipment, it's come a long ways just in 3 or 4 years. So it only continues to get better. And, you kind of hit it on the head before. If you don't pace yourself and stay in line with innovation and learning and educating, then others are going to pass you by. So if you want to be a leader in the industry, I think it's super important to stay ahead of it. It's been having some conversations lately with folks about kind of the economics, certainly here in the States, and where are people cutting and cost cut measures, and are you seeing any of that in Canada looking ahead to 2025? And if so, like what's your approach on
Yeah,
working through some of those challenges?
definitely seeing a lot of change, It's all over the news, not just the tariffs, but like fuel is a huge cost, right? Like summertime, we're probably running $1.50 a liter, which is almost $6 a gallon, you know, which is quite expensive. So not just us, any of the leading companies had to tighten up our routes, be a little more choosy about contracts. And pricing's obviously changed a lot. And unfortunately, that goes down to the end user, right? So clients, I'm sure down there too, they're like, well, why am I going up 15%? Well, my loader went up 25%. My trucks went up this much. I don't deal with a lot of that stuff, but I see it in our managers' meetings. It's going to be interesting the next 4 years to see what happens. You just all went through an election. We're going through an election in April. We just had a provincial election. Same party got back in, so we'll see what happens with the federal election. And then COVID too, right? Like COVID really sent everything for a loop. And I think we're still spiraling from that, to be honest. Our labor force has gotten a little more stable. There is a big Hispanic labor force in Canada, believe it or not. I know it's a long way from
Yeah,
Mexico, but there's a lot of Hispanic workers that we use, just like I hear you guys talking about the
and
H2B.
H2B, sure. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a
So we have programs similar. I think it's called LMIAs, where you can sponsor people to come over. They can stay for up to 2 years, but you got to house them, put them in vehicles. And people are like, oh, it's cheap labor. It's not
it's
by the time you add everything else into it, right? So every company, not just us, but we're always looking for ways there's only so much you can control, right? Like your labor, your material, your
yeah,
equipment, but with the
yeah,
price of everything and a lot of the stuff that we do use is manufactured south of the border, like whether it be in the States or Mexico. So the tariffs are scary. We'll see what happens. But not only that, but if we buy something out of the US, we're working at a 45 cent on the dollar deficit, right? Because it's about $1.45 exchange right now. So we've got to factor all that in as well. Same as travel. I'm fortunate I get to go to SIMA and stuff like that. But it's also a big investment going south of the border because if it's a hotel's $100, it's really 145 to me.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah, we've
yeah, that's
definitely just been working on controlling the controllables, I guess. And unfortunately, some stuff isn't controllable. If CAT decides that they want a 25% increase on their loaders, well, we're all paying it, right?
yeah, yeah. And to your point, you can only cut so much, right? You can only cut so much fat off the bone. I mean, and then at the end of the day, it is what it is. And then you know, trying to, get people to understand that value that you bring. And we go through it here. And you brought up a really good point. COVID falsified everything. COVID just, it falsified decision making. It falsified the economics. We think about it now, and we for us here, the Piscataqua, we had a lot of folks that were due during COVID that were staying home, and they were doing smaller, $10,000 or $15,000 projects up to 2025. Those don't really seem to be there anymore. They're fading away because that disposable income isn't there. And they're not at home. Times have changed, and COVID was fake. It really had an adversary effect on us. And I know for us, seeing it through the commercial sector and industrial is a little scary right now. Same thing. we're talking, they're talking about that, the cuts, the job cuts. It was interesting. I was looking for some sales professionals over in our Portland, Maine market, and the applications, I had 9 one day, and they were folks that were either in like banking, manufacturing, or health insurance. Like, it was interesting to see that people, with high level professional like MBAs and real high level degrees, and thinking, boy, you're overqualified for this work. But that's the economic times changing, right? So we also tend to we have a large sector of our business that does high-end residential market work, which on the seacoast of Maine and New Hampshire, northern Massachusetts, and then also Lakes region of New Hampshire, where there's second and third and fourth homes. So we're pretty diversified in that sense. But from a commercial standpoint, even for us, it can be a little sticky. They're trying to justify, they don't, half the office buildings aren't filled still. So they're like, we're not having that revenue, right? We're not leasing it out. And so we don't have, we got to cut from somewhere.
Parking
So those,
spaces aren't being filled up, so they don't need as much haulage anymore, because they're only using
yeah,
half the parking.
right, right. And I'm sure, I know you folks think you do pavement marking and stuff like that, or pavement maintenance.
Yeah, we offer that service. We have a good sub that will do it for us. But a lot of
Yeah,
people just aren't spending on that kind of stuff anymore. And I don't know about like in the States, but in Canada, the entire like housing market went crazy. Like people were spending a lot of money at first
yeah,
in the price of their house, and then they had to redo their mortgages. The interest rate was crazy. Like even for myself, I went from 2.5.2. It's the exact same house, but now my payment's $300 more a month.
yeah, yeah. That's tough, and it's tough to adapt to that.
Yep. And you feel it everywhere, like because people don't have the money to spend, but yet the manufacturers need the money, so they got to jack their prices up on all the equipment that we use. Like we're we're not really running around in 20-year-old pickup trucks. Like our fleet's basically all brand new. Every
Sure,
year we turn it over. And you
sure.
have to because yeah, new stuff does break, but not as much as 10-year-old stuff.
Yeah. I had a client say to me, it was last fall sometime, like, well, you must be expensive because all your stuff's new. And I was like, well, no, time out. Think about this for a minute, because if I had old junk stuff that never ran, your costs run me more, because number one, I can't get to you. I can't get out as many hours, billable hours, and get the team out there, the guys and gals. So now I'm finding out different solutions. We're far less efficient. Then we're having problems with leaking oil in your driveway. And I said that, and then when you start to put it in that perspective with people, just real world stuff, they're like, okay, I get you. That makes sense. So we want our trucks on the road, and we want them to be safe for our teams, because we want everybody to come in every day and go home to their families every day. And it costs money to do that,
It does.
but it probably costs more money when you can't keep things rolling. So
That's right. And when your stuff's constantly in the shop being fixed, it's costing you more than when it's out on the road. It's actually making you some money, right?
absolutely. Let me ask you this: if you had some advice for some folks that were, well, let me back up a step. I was talking with Martin about this. There's a lot of younger new folks getting into the industry, and there's a lot more, to the point that we talked before. There's a lot more educational opportunities, because 20 years ago there wasn't, right? Like we said, like people didn't want to share information. There wasn't a lot of that, but now, we have SIMA, you have Landscape Ontario, we have New Hampshire Green Snow Pro, all these different organizations that are sharing. Like, if there was some younger folks, smaller side, what's some advice you'd give to them as they're starting in the industry, so that they can maybe become more successful and maybe skip a few of the hurdles that you and I had to jump over?
So the biggest thing, and I was late to the game, there's so much education out there and there's funding for this education. Like SIMA, you can apply for the Alan Steinman scholarship, and they'll help fund to get you there. And you can meet so many people there that are going to change your life, and they've done what you're going to do. And a lot of them are willing to talk to you about it and point you in the right direction. That's something I've found out in the last 5 years. Big thing, get on LinkedIn. My kids are just turned 20 and soon to be 16. They're both on LinkedIn, not to the same extent as me, but my 20-year-old has a pretty good following, and her university program makes them join LinkedIn to build their network before they graduate, right?
Cool.
Get out there, do that. get on the Landscape Ontario or New Hampshire, Maine, whatever state you're in, get on their websites, see what they're offering, see if there's get-togethers. Just go meet people, get your name out there, get your face out there. Like if you would have asked me a year ago I was going to be on a podcast, I'd be like, no. And now I'm on like four of them, right? Like probably same thing for you. We're that age group, right? We didn't know what podcasts were. But one big advice that I would have for people, I'm guilty of this. I try not to be, but I definitely am. And I post some stuff that isn't all puppy dogs and rainbows. Because I think some of these kids are on Instagram and whatnot, and they see people making, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, all the cool touching tip videos, all the cool LaRue blower videos, all that. Yeah, you can get there if you put in the hard work, but it ain't gonna happen overnight. And for every awesome video you're seeing, there's guys like me and you with a broken down plow in the middle of a snowstorm, just trying to make it through, right? That's the real life snow that
Frozen hands and frozen ears. Yeah. I appreciate you talking about that because quite honestly, Jeremy, like that's why I started this podcast was to talk about real life stuff. And you see some really big companies out there and their marketing is incredible. But at the end of the day, they have the same challenges that you have. They have the same challenges that I have. Our companies, right? Nobody's above it. Nobody's different. So I think it's important, like you said, to share these stories. And when you know, people are proud and more passionate about this industry now, I think, in particularly. And I think people need to just say, you know what, I'm going to leave my ego at the door. I'm going to leave and I'm going to go in and meet somebody. There's a networking event going on. I'm going to go and I'm going to learn. Nobody's going to look down at me because I don't do $10 million in revenue of that, or I don't have this brand new thing. But if you have that open mind, I feel like you can get a ton of information. And I feel like there's value there because is Billy Butts, the ships rise with the tide, right? And when you align yourself with others that are successful, wanting to learn and passionate about it, then you're going to rise too. So you really two great points. You nailed it
yeah, and
there. Is
there's
get out there.
so many good people in our industry. Like really in the big scheme of things, I'm really a nobody in this industry. I don't own a multi-million dollar company. I work for a company. I drive a
Sure.
company truck,
Same,
nice,
same.
but you can be at a table at Simo or even like next month, Storks Plows. I'm driving 7 hours to go there. There's going to be multi-million dollar people in that room, but they're going to treat you like a human, just like everyone else, because they know you're out there struggling at times. Like there's so many people, even though I'm hours away, totally different country, I can pick up my phone and call them and be like, hey, Steve, I'm going through this, man. Have you ever had this happen? Yeah, I had this happen. Try this. Sure enough, it works because he's been doing it 30 years. He's been through it. And that's what this industry is all about, in my opinion. And it's getting better because we're all talking. Yeah, we're not giving away proprietary stuff, but, we're there to pick each other up when, you know, like I remember I'm not perfect. I opened up the wrong valve on a liquid sprayer. I took a nice salt brine bath. Was that fun? Nope. Did I post about that? Nope. I talked to a few guys and like, oh yeah, that happened to me like my third time I ever used one. Like, don't feel stupid. It's happened to us all. It's the real life, real people that we have in this industry. And for the most part, nobody's flaunting in your face that, hey, I'm a multi-millionaire driving a Porsche and you're just some chuck in a truck. They're there to help you. And that's what the
Yeah.
young people or anyone in this industry needs is to build their network, meet good people, and they also have to be a good person too. You can't keep all your cards to your vest and expect everyone else to show you some of your cards, right?
Yeah, well said. Yeah, well said. That's awesome. I think just these last 2 minutes of what you said are so powerful because that's only going to help us get better with the industry. And I think it's going to bring more professional image to the industry as well, which it lacks sometimes, right? We don't get that respect that I feel like we should sometimes when we are basically offering a risk-free or risk litigation business where we're reducing people's liability. So I think it's important to do that and to network with others and to not be afraid to fail because we've all been there. You and I have all learned from somebody and worked our way up through. We continue to work our way up through, so and you continue to learn. So I appreciate you sharing that. You're doing honestly, I couldn't. You're a pretty modest guy because you're doing a lot of great stuff, and people are paying attention to it and like it. I know for myself, I like to be shoulder to shoulder with guys like you that are passionate about it and like to share information. So I appreciate and applaud you for that, for helping others in the industry as
I
well.
appreciate what
So
you're doing with starting the podcast and showing up Tuesday nights and
thank
that.
you.
It just it makes it more enjoyable lifestyle. Like it's not a glamorous lifestyle by any means, but
No,
it's an honest lifestyle. I remember years ago I was at a little barbecue in the backyard, with some friends. I knew some of them, not some of the other ones. And this guy, he's high tech. He had a nice BMW, whatnot. He had money, obviously. He's like, "Whose truck is that in the driveway?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's mine." And the guy's like, "Oh, it's kind of crappy." And another guy knows, like, his so-called crappy truck is worth about 3 times as much as your BMW. And I'm like, "Yeah, and I don't pay for it either. But it's
that's right.
BMW."
Yeah, no, that's
I
right.
did a talk at a local college there a few months ago now, start of snow season, people looking for a new career. What I tried to instill in them is your friends are going to say, "Oh, you're out shoveling snow for a living." No, you're not. You're out keeping the community safe. That old man in a wheelchair, that old lady with a walker, without you, they're homebound all winter long.
Yeah, man, well said.
We're the
Yeah,
first responders for the first responders. Without us, police, fire, ambulance, they can't get where they need to go. So
yeah,
I'm very passionate about this, and I like it that there's more people out there that I've met who take such pride in what we do. Because, like I said, it's not glamorous, but
yeah.
it's a great career.
It's fulfilling. It's fulfilling at the end of the day. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on. I want to catch up with you again for another episode. Maybe we get into the summer here. But if folks want to reach out to you to, you know, maybe run something by you, or have some questions or some input, how would they get a hold of you?
Yep, so I'm on LinkedIn, just Jeremy Kirkham. I'm on Instagram a bit, not that much. It's just Jay Kirkham 78 and or jeremy.kirkham@clintar.com. Feel free to reach out to me anyway. Or if you see me at any of the shows, like feel free to come up. We can have a pop or a beer, whatever you're drinking, and we can just talk shop and not just shop.
Love it.
Tell me about what you're passionate outside of life. Like I've got 2
Yeah.
kids and I work.
Yeah, I love seeing the stuff you post on that too. It's just your daughter's birthday, I think, the other day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So that's great, and really good point, right? Like you got to find some balance with work too. So really good stuff. So well, thanks again, Jeremy. I appreciate your time and being on the show, and we'll look forward to catching up with you next time.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you bet. And folks, we'll be looking forward to the next one. The next one, we've got Thane Isaacs coming on board. We're going to talk about some leadership forums and retreats and what we can do as individuals to kind of, to Jeremy's point, to align ourselves with a network of folks that are passionate about what they do. So thanks again, and have a
Thanks for
great day.
having me. Have a good day, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Blizzard and Bloom with Jay Rotonnelli. We hope you feel inspired and empowered. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Join us next week for more insights and stories to help you bloom in your business journey.